Imagine a world where everything you know, your thoughts, your perceptions, even the very concept of existence, is a fragile construct, entirely dependent on definitions that themselves have no independent reality. This is not a science fiction scenario, nor is it a philosophical abstraction confined to ivory towers. It is a radical lens through which we can examine the nature of reality itself. At its core, reality is nothing but a network of definitions, and every entity, every concept, and every structure we consider real exists solely within this network. Step outside the web of definitions, and nothing exists, not the universe, not time, not space, not humans, not life itself. From the first moments of thought, we attempt to define the world around us. Language becomes our tool, our bridge, our instrument for creating order in what appears to be chaos. Words give names to objects, events, and ideas. They carve existence out of nothingness, or so it seems. But what if these words, these structures of language, are themselves part of the illusion? If definitions are self-referential and exist only because we define them, then what we perceive as reality is a grand mirage. We are both the creators of this mirage and the prisoners within it. Consider duality and singularity, fundamental categories through which humans interpret existence. Light and dark, life and death, subject and object, these are all relational constructs. They have no independent reality. They exist only because we have defined them in opposition to one another. Remove the act of definition, and they collapse. Singularity, which we often regard as a point of ultimate origin or ultimate existence, has no substance outside its definition. Its reality is as intangible as a shadow in an empty void. Time and space, too, are caught in this illusory web. Time, with its relentless progression from past to future, is nothing but a measure, a definitional tool for ordering perception. Space, with its distances and dimensions, is similarly a conceptual framework. Science measures the expansion of the universe, calculates the age of stars, and predicts the collision of galaxies. Philosophy debates the nature of being, causality, and the ultimate meaning of existence. Yet all of these inquiries rely on definitions. Strip away the definitional structures, and time, space, and even the universe vanish. They have no existence independent of the framework that constructs them. Humans themselves, with their consciousness, memories, emotions, and identities, are emergent illusions. Birth, life, death, and all the conditions of existence are constructs sustained by definition. The I that claims to perceive the world is nothing but a definitional placeholder. It has no autonomous reality outside the system that creates it. Our experiences are therefore ephemeral shadows cast by an intricate interplay of language and thought. This radical framework is self-referential, recursive, and paradoxical. Definition depends on itself. To define definition is to participate in the very system whose fragility it exposes. Existence requires definition, yet definition lacks an independent ontological status. Here, the collapse is inevitable. What we perceive as reality disintegrates into radical inexistence. There is no foundation, no bedrock of being. Everything is emergent, contingent, and illusory. Science, as a systematic endeavor, illustrates this vividly. Scientific measurement, observation, and theorization all presuppose definitional consistency. The constants of physics, the equations that describe the cosmos, the predictions that guide experiments, all are reliant on definitions. Without definitional structures, empirical data becomes meaningless. The electron, the photon, gravity, the speed of light, none of these entities exist independently. They are patterns in a network of definitions, illusions masquerading as reality. Philosophy, too, encounters this paradox. Reasoning, conceptual analysis, moral reasoning, and metaphysical inquiry presuppose definitional stability. Without definitions, concepts collapse, and philosophical discourse dissolves into silence. Questions of ethics, knowledge, and existence lose coherence. Metaphysics, in particular, which seeks to understand the ultimate nature of reality, confronts a profound revelation. The universe itself is not a repository of independent reality, but a construct emergent from definitions. Being, causality, and temporality are not properties of an external world. They are artifacts of human conceptualization. In this framework, the end of the world must be reconceptualized. It is no longer a temporal or physical event. There is no before or after, because time itself is an illusory construct. There is no world to end, because the universe is sustained entirely by definitional processes. Birth, death, causality, and the conditions that frame existence are illusions. The end of the world, therefore, is an epistemic and ontological recognition. The realization that existence is impossible outside definitions, and definitions themselves have no independent existence. Engaging with this realization is disorienting. The very manuscript you read, the words I speak, and the letters that form these sentences are part of the illusion. Every argument, every example, every conceptual framework is both subject and object of the system it critiques. To read this text is to engage in a paradoxical act. You are participating in the illusory system even as you are attempting to recognize its non-existence. The paper itself is a construct of definitions, and therefore it does not exist in any ultimate sense. Yet the paradox offers a kind of liberation. Recognizing the radical inexistence of reality frees the mind from attachment to structures that have no independent reality. The boundaries we perceive, the lines between life and death, self and other, past and future, are conceptual scaffolds, not immutable truths. Language, thought, philosophy, and science are tools within this illusion. They are effective within definitional boundaries, yet they cannot penetrate ultimate reality, for no ultimate reality exists outside definition. This radical perspective extends to all domains of human understanding. Culture, politics, history, mathematics, art, all are emergent phenomena within definitional systems. Nations, borders, laws, currencies, and social hierarchies are constructs, sustained only by collective agreement and continuous definitional reinforcement. Art, in its myriad forms, captures patterns, emotions, and experiences, but these too are defined and bounded. Remove definitions and the structures dissolve. Only emptiness remains. Even human experience of pain, pleasure, joy, and suffering is bound by definitions. Love, fear, anger, happiness, and sadness are meaningful only because we define them. Without language, without the conceptual framework that shapes perception, these experiences have no independent existence. Consciousness itself becomes a hollow term, a placeholder within an intricate matrix of definitions. Memory, identity, and self-awareness all are contingent illusions. Cosmology, physics, and mathematics, though often regarded as pathways to ultimate truth, are equally contingent. The laws of physics describe relationships within definitional frameworks. Numbers and equations are defined symbols. Space-time curvature, quantum states, entropy, and energy are patterns sustained within definitional systems. They offer predictive power, yet they do not confer ontological existence. The universe, therefore, is simultaneously real in practice and non-existent in ultimate reality. The paradox of radical inexistence is not merely a theoretical exercise. It has profound implications for human life. If all is illusory, what meaning can be derived? Meaning, too, is defined. Ethical codes, moral imperatives, personal goals, and collective aspirations are emergent properties of definitional systems. Recognizing their illusory nature does not render them irrelevant. It reframes engagement. Action, choice, creativity, and thought become performances within the matrix of definitions. Awareness of the illusion allows a form of intellectual and existential freedom, a liberation from attachment to constructs that lack independent reality. Language itself is a master of this illusion. Each letter is a symbol, each word a cluster of definitions, and each sentence a relational pattern. Communication presupposes shared understanding of definitions. But the act of defining is inherently self-referential. Defining language depends on language. Thought depends on words. Expression depends on symbols. Meaning depends on shared assumptions. The recursive nature of definition ensures that nothing exists outside its own web. Each attempt to articulate reality reinforces the illusion, yet simultaneously exposes its fragility. The recognition of radical inexistence is akin to a philosophical awakening. The end of the world is not an apocalypse of matter, nor a cessation of biological life. It is a realization that all constructs, physical, conceptual, linguistic, and cultural, lack independent existence. Reality is emergent, contingent, and paradoxical. Every attempt to grasp it is simultaneously an act of creation and an encounter with illusion. The world never existed in an ultimate sense, and nothing exists outside the mirage of definitions. This perspective resonates with certain strands of modern physics, simulation theory, and Eastern philosophy. The holographic principle in physics suggests that reality is a projection of information on a boundary, echoing the idea that existence is emergent from a deeper substrate of definitions. Simulation theory proposes that our perceived universe is a computational construct, indistinguishable from reality, yet entirely dependent on rules and code. Advaita Vedanta and other non-dual philosophies emphasize the illusory nature of the phenomenal world, asserting that ultimate reality transcends distinctions and categories. Radical Inexistence synthesizes these ideas, revealing a framework where the universe, life, and consciousness are definitional projections, simultaneously real and non-existent. In conclusion, the world we inhabit, the space, the time, the people, the objects, the ideas, the emotions, and even this manuscript, is a construct of definitions. Each definition is a fragile placeholder, self-referential, dependent, and ultimately non-existent outside the system that sustains it. The end of the world, therefore, is not a temporal or physical event, but an epistemic and ontological revelation. Nothing exists outside the illusion of definition. Recognition of this radical inexistence is both unsettling and liberating, as it dissolves the scaffolding of presumed reality while opening the door to a form of understanding unbound by conventional constraints. The world as we perceive it is a dream of definitions, and our engagement with it is an interplay of illusion, perception, and thought, a reflection of nothingness made manifest.